Good morning, everybody. It is 10 o'clock a.m. on Wednesday, March 30th, 2022. We are here for a public hearing on the Triennial Review of State Water Quality Standards. We're here to solicit comments about the intent to review and to update, if necessary, certain areas of state water quality standards. Mr. Stephen Jacobson is the hearings officer overseeing this public hearing. Mr. Jacobson, can you provide information on the agenda of this hearing?
Okay,
I
you are good to go now.
Excuse me, now I am unmuted, I will go again. Good morning, everyone. There are three items on the agenda for this meeting. First, the housekeeping rules and the contact information for the Clean Water branch will be announced. The contact information will include details about when to submit comments, and that will be repeated at the close of the hearing too. Second, there will be an overview of what the triennial review process is and a summary of proposed actions. And last, oral comments will be taken. The hearing will be closed after all oral comments have been submitted. Robert Fan is an environmental health scientist with the Clean Water branch. Mr. Fan, can you please announce the housekeeping rules and give the overview of the state water quality standards?
Good morning, I'm Robert Fan of the Clean Water Branch. Here are some housekeeping rules. If you hear an echo, close all browser windows except the Zoom webinar window. If you still hear an echo, mute your computer speakers and listen to the public hearing with headphones. If you have any technical difficulties, notify staff by using the chat button or by calling the Clean Water Branch at 808-586-4309. Once again, 808-586-4309. If you intend to provide comments, please raise your virtual hand. On a computer, press the raise hand button. On a phone, press star 9 on the keypad. All attendees are muted until they are called to give comments. Please wait for the hearings officer to call your name or phone number. On a computer, press the unmute button when prompted. On a phone, press star 6 on the keypad when prompted. Before providing comments, please state your full name and affiliation. Your virtual hand is lowered once you are called to provide comments. If you have questions, note that this public hearing is to collect comments about the intent to review and to update, if necessary, certain areas of state water quality standards. The Clean Water Branch is not answering any questions, either written or oral, at this public hearing. The Clean Water Branch will respond to all comments and questions when a final determination will be made on the proposed updates of state water quality standards. Next slide. Here's the contact information of the Clean Water Branch. You can call us at 808-586-4309. Once again, 808-586-4309. Our normal business hours are Monday through Friday from 7:45 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. You can email us at cleanwaterbranch@doh.hawaii.gov. For the 2022 Triennial Review, all emailed comments must be received by 4:30 p.m. on March 30th. You can also send correspondence by postal mail. Our street address is 2827 Waimano Home Road, room 225. The city is Pearl City, and the zip code is 96782. For the 2022 Triennial Review, All posted comments must be received by 4:30 p.m. on March 30th. Next slide. Here's the overview of the triennial review process. State water quality standards provide the regulatory basis for assessing, protecting, and restoring water bodies in the state. The three key components of state water quality standards are anti-degradation requirements, designated uses, and water quality criteria. State water quality standards are specified in Hawaii Administrative Rules at Title 11, Chapter 54, or HAR 1154. The Clean Water Act requires all states to review and to update, if necessary, their water quality standards at least once every 3 years. All updates of water quality standards must be subject to the public participation process. They must be adopted by the applicable states and approved by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Next slide. For the 2022 Triennial Review, the Department of Health has identified 13 areas of state water quality standards to review and to update if necessary. The Department of Health will publish a response to the comments submitted during the public comment period and at this public hearing. The Department of Health will outline in this response a work plan of proposed updates to state water quality standards. It is estimated that the rationales for these proposed updates will be ready for public review and input in early 2024. Next slide. Here is the summary of proposed actions. The proposed actions for the 13 areas of state water quality standards include the amendment of existing state requirements, the development of future state requirements, the adoption of recent federal recommendations and requirements, and the implementation of state requirements. Applicable federal recommendations and requirements that were issued since the beginning of 2019 are considered during the 2022 Triennial Review. The document describing the areas of state water quality standards to be reviewed is available at the Clean Water Branch website. Our web address is health.hawaii.gov/CWB. The following 13 tables respectively describe the specific issues and the proposed actions for the 13 areas of state water quality standards. Next slide. Table 1. Purposes of State Water Quality Standards. The purpose of state water quality standards are not clearly stated in HAR 1154. Specifically, it is not stated that state water quality standards serve the purposes of the Clean Water Act, including the protection of public health, the recreation on and in waters, the support and propagation of aquatic life, and the elimination of polluted discharges into surface waters. The Department of Health will update Section 1.1 of HAR 1154 to clearly state the purposes of state water quality standards. Next slide. Table 2. Requirements of non-point source pollution control. On June 15, 2021, Governor Ige signed new rules for the protection of state waters from non-point sources of pollution. The new regulations are specified in the new chapter HAR 1156 called Non-Point Source Pollution Control. HAR 1156 provides the framework for the prevention, abatement, and control of new and existing non-point sources of pollution. The new rules are applicable to both publicly owned and privately owned entities that cause or contribute to non-point source pollution. Applicable entities must develop, submit, and implement water pollution prevention plans to effectively control non-point sources of pollution due to their activities. The Department of Health will evaluate how to complement existing requirements in HAR 1154 with applicable new requirements in HAR 1156 for the protection of state waters from water pollution. Specifically, the Department of Health will include in HAR 1154 the new requirements from HAR 1156 for water pollution prevention plans. Next slide. Table 3. Requirements of Vessel Incidental Discharge Act. On December 4, 2018, President Trump signed into law the Vessel Incidental Discharge Act to establish a new federal framework for regulating incidental discharges from commercial vessels. VIDA required the EPA to propose new federal standards for incidental discharges from commercial vessels before the end of 2020, and the U.S. Coast Guard to develop the corresponding federal regulations by 2022. The Department of Health will evaluate the forthcoming federal regulations for incidental discharges from commercial vessels. The Department of Health will ensure that existing state definitions and regulations will be in compliance with new federal definitions and regulations. Next slide. Table 4. Definition of zones of mixing. Mixing zones are defined in federal regulations as limited areas where the initial dilution of discharges takes place. Zones of mixing are defined in state regulations as limited areas where the initial dilution of waste discharges takes place. Note that the federal definition only covers the permitted use of mixing zones for the initial dilution of discharges and not waste discharges as currently specified in HAR 1154. The Department of Health will update Section 1 of HAR 1154 to clarify that zones of mixing are only specified in permits for the initial dilution of water pollutants from point source discharges into state waters. Next slide. Table 5. Protection of inland waters. It is specified in HAR 1154 that stormwater discharges into state waters are allowed when the basic water quality criteria and all applicable requirements are met. However, it is not clearly specified that stormwater discharges into Class 1 inland waters are allowed when certain conditions are met. For Class 2 estuaries, it is specified in HAR 1154 that new treated sewage discharges and new industrial discharges are prohibited. However, it is not specified that these new discharges are prohibited for Class 1 estuaries. The Department of Health will update HAR 1154 to adequately and equally protect all classes of inland waters. Rationales for allowing or prohibiting any discharges into inland waters will be provided. Next slide. Table 6. Protection of marine waters. It is specified in HAR 1154 that stormwater discharges into state waters are allowed when the basic water quality criteria and all applicable requirements are met. However, it is not clearly specified that stormwater discharges into Class AA marine waters are allowed when certain conditions are met. For Class A embayments, it is specified in HAR 1154 that new treated sewage discharges and new industrial discharges are prohibited. However, it is not specified that these new discharges are prohibited for Class AA embayments. The Department of Health will update HAR 1154 to adequately and equally protect all classes of marine waters. Rationales for allowing or prohibiting any discharges into marine waters will be provided. Next slide. Table 7. Definition of Class AA reef areas. There are conflicting depth requirements specified in HAR 1154 for zones of mixing that are located in Class AA marine waters. Specifically, the depth requirement for waters within a defined reef area is not the same as the depth requirement for waters with no defined reef areas. The Department of Health will update Section 3 of HAR 1154 to clarify the depth requirement for zones of mixing that are located in Class AA marine waters. Next slide. Table 8. Clarification of toxicity standards. Toxicity standards applicable to all state waters are specified in HAR 1154. It is only specified that toxicity standards are for the protection of human health. The Department of Health will update Section 4 of HAR 1154 to clarify that toxicity standards are for the protection of both human health and aquatic life. Next slide. Table 9. Adoption of National Aquatic Life Criteria. The EPA periodically publishes updated water quality criteria for the protection of aquatic life. Since the aquatic species that are endemic to the Hawaiian Islands are not accounted for in the derivation of national aquatic life criteria, the Department of Health decided for the 2019 Triennial Review to defer adopting any national acute and national chronic criteria that the EPA recommended for the protection of aquatic life. The Department of Health will evaluate the national acute and national chronic criteria recommended by the EPA for the protection of aquatic life. At the very least, the Department of Health will consider adopting a subset of the national aquatic life criteria. Next slide. Table 10. Use of combined template for inland waters. State waters are classified in HAR 1154 as either inland waters or marine waters. There are specific criteria applicable to each type of inland waters and marine waters. Two templates are used in HAR 1154 for the application of specific criteria. The split template is used for inland waters and the combined template for marine waters. For consistency, it is preferable to use the same template for both inland waters and marine waters. The Department of Health will update HAR 1154 to ensure the consistent use of the combined template for both inland waters and marine waters. Next slide. Table 11. Analyses of water samples. It is specified in HAR 1154 that the analysis of water samples must be performed by a laboratory approved by the Department of Health. Due to the reduction of federal funding, the task of reviewing and approving laboratories are not currently performed by the Department of Health. There is no current list of laboratories that are approved by the Department of Health. The Clean Water Act requires that analytical methods used to analyze water samples must be approved by the EPA. Currently, there are no provisions in HAR 1154 to allow the use of analytical methods that are not approved by the EPA. The Department of Health will update Section 10 of HAR 1154 to delete the requirement for the analysis of water samples by a laboratory approved by the Department of Health. Depending on the availability of future funding, the Department of Health will evaluate this requirement during upcoming triennial reviews. The Department of Health will also update Section 10 of HAR 1154 to allow the use of alternate analytical methods when there are no analytical methods approved by the EPA. Next slide. Table 12, specification of numeric criteria for TPH and xylene. On December 5, 2021, the U.S. Navy confirmed that the leakage of a mixture of water and jet fuel had occurred at the Red Hill bulk fuel storage facility. In the event of leakages of fuel, such as the incident at the Red Hill bulk fuel storage facility, the Department of Health has to monitor the discharge of petroleum hydrocarbons into state waters and to assess the potential adverse impacts to human health and aquatic life. There are numeric criteria in HAR 1154 for 5 hydrocarbons, including benzene, ethylbenzene, fluorine, naphthalene, and toluene. However, there are no numeric criteria specified for total petroleum hydrocarbons, or TPH, and xylene. To better protect state waters from leakages of fuel, the Department of Health will update Appendix E of HAR 1154 to specify numeric criteria for TPH. Table 13, revision of existing requirements and adoption of new requirements. The public and other stakeholders with an interest in surface water quality issues have an opportunity to submit their proposals during the public comment period and at the virtual public hearing of the 2022 Triennial Review. The Department of Health will consider all proposals from the public and other stakeholders that are deemed necessary for the protection of state waters. The Department of Health may include applicable proposals in the next round of proposed updates to state water quality standards. This concludes the summary of the proposed actions for the 13 areas of state water quality standards. Thank you.
This is slide 22.
Yes, this is that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For submitting public comments, to ensure that the virtual public hearing proceeds in an orderly manner, attendees joining on Zoom submit comments by table number. That is, if you want to talk about table 1, you cite the number. And attendees joining by a phone call can call in comments at any time. To provide comments on Zoom, click the right-hand button, and when prompted, click the unmute button. For phone comments, press number 9. Is that score 9?
To star 9.
Star 9 to raise your hand, and when prompted, press star 6 to unmute. Each commenter has a maximum of 3 minutes to provide comments, and each commenter will be notified when they have 30 seconds left. The Clean Water Branch is not answering any questions for this virtual public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to comment on table 1 called Purposes of State Water Quality Standards?
So we're looking for raised hands, Stephen.
Okay.
And it's up to you, um, when you want to move on.
Okay, well, I can't see anybody, so I don't know.
Yeah, so- So
How
you
do I
see,
tell you?
so the raised hands would be on this side of, you see this?
Okay, okay, yeah,
So if there's no raised hands, then nobody is, gonna provide comments for this table. And, it's up to you when you want to move on to the next one.
okay. I see no comments on that one at this point. They can also come in later at the end too. Let's go to table 2. Does anyone have comments on table 2 titled Requirements of non-point source pollution control, HAR 1156? Yeah, good method.
Yeah, it's up to you.
Okay, seeing none, let's go to the next slide. Does anyone have comments on table 3, requirements of Vessel Incidental Discharge Act, also known as VIDA? Okay, let's go to the next one. Next slide, please.
You can just speak louder than mine with.
Oh, I'm sorry. Next slide, please. Does anyone have comments on table 4, the definition of zones of mixing? Okay, no raised hands. Let's go to table 5, please. Does anyone have any comments on table 5, protection of inland waters? Let's go to table 6, please. Does anyone have any public comments on table 6, titled protection of marine waters? Let's move on. Next slide. Does anyone have any comments on table 7, the definition of class AA reef areas? No hands. Next slide, please. Are there any comments on table 8, clarification of toxicity standards? Seeing none, let's go to the next slide, please. Are there anyone's comments on table 9, adoption of national aquatic life criteria? Okay, next slide, please. Is there anyone who wishes to comment on table 10, use of combined template for inland waters? Okay, next slide, please. Does anyone have comments on table 11, analyses of water samples? Next slide, please. Does anyone have any comments on table 12, specification of numeric criteria for TPHs and xylene? Let's go to the next slide. Does anyone have any comments on table 13, revision of existing requirements and adoption of new requirements? Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. Yes, is there anyone who wishes to comment on any table, any of 1 through 13? And in case there's people trying to get on by phone, we're going to allow 3 minutes for this, just to make sure we don't miss anyone. But if you're on Zoom, you can, that's fine too. We're just giving extra time to the phone people, if there are any. Okay, another 30 seconds. Okay, no comments received, no hands, no phone calls that we're aware of. Thank you all for all the attendees for attending the public hearing. Robert, can you repeat the contact information for the Clean Water Branch in case anyone wishes to comment in another way?
So you can contact us by phone at 808-586-4309. Once again, 808-586-4309. Our normal business hours are Monday through Friday from 7:45 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. You can email us at cleanwaterbranch@doh.hawaii.gov. For the 2022 Triennial Review, all email comments must be received by 4:30 this afternoon. You can also send postal mail to us. Our street address is Clean Water Branch, 2827 Waimano Home Road, room number 225. The city is Pearl City, and the zip code is 96782. All posted comments must be received by 4:30 this afternoon for the 2022 Triennial Review. Thank you.
Okay, this will conclude the public hearing. Thank you very much for attending, and we will be signing off now.
Yeah, Myron should be muting us pretty soon.